Welcome to Prism Break Out of the Pokeball. I am Pixel.
And I'm Panic.
And we are back today with some more Palworld discussion. So, just to do a quick little recap, if you listened to last week's episode, we talked about Palworld, what we like. I don't think we really liked anything, but what we thought other people liked, what we didn't like, and we mostly agreed on Palworld. But we ended up having a disagreement when it comes to the Pokemon Company International and what their next steps are. So I felt that Big Pokemon has been getting kind of lazy in their games. And basically what I mean by that is they've come out with two games or two types of games in the past like decade or so. So we have Arceus, which is probably the best Pokemon game that has ever existed. And then we have games like Scarlet and Violet and Sword and Shield. And I said that they were getting kind of lazy, and Panic disagreed. So we're here to listen to what Panic thinks the Pokemon Company International is up to and why they're not getting lazy. So I'll go ahead and hand it off to you, Panic.
Yeah, so it was a bit of a shocking disagreement for us. More for you than me, because I know that my take is edgy, and I think you expected me to agree a little bit. Again, with Palworld, we had generally negative feelings, and then you transitioned to saying, "Oh, but maybe this will boost the Pokemon company's motivation to make something new."
Yeah, because it's like a form of competition. Because I feel like they've been dominating the market for so long.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm with you, right? Like, I agree. I mean, Palworld kind of puts a little bit of vulnerability in Pokemon. I don't think it's significant enough. I think the people playing Palworld that have any interest in Pokemon are doing it to fill a hole that Pokemon is leaving, where there's nothing new in Pokemon in terms of gaming. Here's this game similar to Pokemon. Let me play it. Now, If we go back to Pokemon. Now, one of the things I think about the most is, like, when I was, I don't know, 10 years old, maybe. I think I might have been 10 years old.
Warthog. I'm sorry.
Amazing. So when I was 10 years old, that's when I played Pokemon Yellow for the first time. So Pokemon Yellow was my first game.
Okay.
And I loved it. I absolutely loved it. That's what got me into Pokemon Yellow. And at the same time, obviously, I don't know what was first. I think it was Pokemon Yellow before the trading cards. But my neighbor got into trading cards and he had a lot of duplicates. And I had just started. I maybe bought like 3 packs or something. But I remember, again, I was like 10 years old. Don't super judge me for this. But my neighbor and my friend also. But he was a really cool dude, like super nice, really trusting, which is kind of where I feel guilty, right? So he was like, "Here, you don't have a lot of Pokemon cards. Look at mine. You might like them, and then you'll buy more." So he left for the day, and my cousin and I went through, and every card he had a duplicate of, or more than 2 cards of, we would take the 3rd and maybe 4th card for each other.
Aww, and that's nice.
Anyway, that's a side story. It's awful, but to say that I got into Pokemon when I was 10 years old. I'm into Pokemon today because of nostalgia. Like, nostalgia is like the theme of like the 2000s, I feel. Because, well, maybe especially since 2007, when things got really rough economically.
Right.
So, point is, nostalgia has been really powerful. And we cannot let nostalgia be the reason we are against new ideas. So, what is Pokemon trying to do today? Are they trying to capture more people like me? Or are they trying to capture more 10-year-olds? Objectively speaking, Pokemon Scarlet and Violet are more enjoyable games for a 10-year-old than Pokemon Red and Blue and Yellow. Just based on just technology alone.
Yeah, because like all these babies are being born with like USBs plugged into their bellies or something, like they're little technology fiends. It's so cool.
I mean, look, our generation was the one that grew up on the internet and they told us we're going to have our minds poisoned. I get it. Like, people are super plugged in, especially children.
Yeah.
But whatever, like, we all have our distractions. And I'm super against this concept of things were better in my day.
Yeah.
Because that rhetoric existed when we were kids, and they're like, "Oh, the kids are doomed." And when our like baby boomers were supposed to be the most spoiled children to ever exist, according to their elders, and now they call us the most spoiled children to ever exist.
And then the next
So these
generation will be the most spoiled.
And that's what we're doing now. Like, oh, you guys grew up on the iPad. It's like, all right, guys, relax. I see, even I have seen people like children. Sorry, as if I was insinuating that children are not people, but no, people that are children. I've seen them sit on an iPad for hours while we're out at a gathering with my friends or whatever, and their children are just playing the iPad the whole time, like baby cousins and stuff.
Yeah.
And my initial reaction is like, oh my god, I can't believe it. But then the more I think about it, like all I did was play N64 when I was that age. Like come on, like I'm well adjusted enough.
Yeah, like all I used to do was play on my Game Boy Color, my transparent,
There it is.
sparkly Game Boy Color.
And how is that different than an iPad? I don't know. Point is, Pokemon knows what they're doing because they're trying to add more customers. They're not trying to keep existing customers because they already have us. People listening to this podcast are probably more like you and me, right? Than the new generation of Pokemon players. So I don't imagine a lot of 10-year-olds are listening to us. But that is, if Pokemon wants to be successful in 10 to 20 years, they can't rely on us, right? Because maybe we will be still Pokemon fans, but they need other 20 and 30-year-olds with a lot of spending power to buy Pokemon stuff. So when you and I look at Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, it's like, oh, it's too easy, or oh, it's boring and like glitchy, whatever. Kids don't care about glitchy. If kids see like an animation just like walking across without moving, they're not gonna care. If their avatar like starts spinning wildly, like I've seen that meme, people are not gonna care. Like these children again.
Yeah, they're not going to look at the grass texture and be like, oh, this developer did not put that much work into the grass texture. Like I was.
I mean, that's exactly how people talk. Yes.
Yeah.
And so, but you know what? I noticed something about Legends Arceus, and it's like a 2D texture on the grass. And I thought it was really pretty.
It's like, cell shading. It is so pretty. It is the type of shading that they use in Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom for Zelda.
Right.
Absolutely.
And Arceus
beautiful.
was made. Yep, and Arceus was made by a different developer than Scarlet and Violet.
Yeah.
And I think Arceus was definitely more geared towards older people. It is a much more difficult game. And because it's a kind of game where you can die just by walking around instead of beating the grass.
Exactly. And then also, like, there's quests, like you have to fill out the Pokédex from scratch. Like you have.
Right.
Yeah, like it's not something that maybe a 10-year-old would be able to do. I didn't think about that though. I was just thinking in terms of us, like us as in 20 and 30-year-olds, and like what appeals to us, because I feel like those games kind of turned a lot of people off as far as Pokemon goes. But you're right, like kids don't give a shit. I'm sorry, like they don't care. Like my partner's little brother plays Scarlet and Violet and plays Paldea, and he loves it. Meanwhile, I'm over here with my nose turned up being like, it's not the same as Arceus. Like, okay, yeah, it's not the same as Arceus. But like, they are creating like a new customer base.
And these are all things we don't consider because we want everything catered to us. And frankly, things have been catered to us for a long time as millennials.
Yeah.
If someone's Gen Z listening to this, they might even feel like, yeah, you millennials get everything for you guys because we are such a big group. But now we're having children, and those children are now being focused on. Just like Gen X, Gen Z kind of got skipped over a little bit.
Yeah.
Maybe not everyone shares that mentality, but my economics brain sees it that way. So, and a lot of things like, people are saying, oh, Pokemon is overprinting their cards. They're driving prices to the ground. Well, yes. You can't have an expensive Pokemon hobby of collecting cards that is too expensive for children and their parents. Like, parents aren't going to buy $100 cards for their children just because you want to have your cards be worth $100. Doesn't mean that's what the Pokemon company wants.
Exactly. Like, as much as it sucks for us, like, it doesn't suck for them.
Right. For kids, they just want the pretty cards. They just want to complete their collection. They want a competitive deck. Like there's a reason Iona was going closer to $4 per common, like the base standard card.
Mm-hmm.
But they just kept printing different versions of it, and they added it into
Paldean Fates.
Paldean Fates,
Yeah.
because you need to make these cards that are vital for the TCG accessible.
Yeah.
So when
When a
if
bulk card is going for $4, that's a problem.
right, and you have that problem right now with Forest Sealstone going at $8 right now. At one point, it was closer to 20.
Yeah.
But it's a rare card, and I think Pokemon tries to find a balance. Like we can't like they are the most successful franchise in terms of IP ever, any single IP, and we'll probably say this every episode. And the reason I say that is they don't get to that point by being negligent, right,
Right.
or complacent. You keep and maintain the brand by being proactive, and that's what they've done. People listening to this podcast, I bet you anything, love Pokemon. Consider why you love Pokemon. It's not because the Pokemon company didn't do a great job. You love Pokemon because of the Pokemon company. So
Yeah.
all that together, all that considered, I think the biggest factor for us to understand why Pokemon is not getting complacent is to understand that we're not the target market. Now, with the newest game, Pokemon, is it ZA?
Yeah. ZA.
ZA, yeah, ZA. Obviously in my brain it was called Celebi for the longest time, but whatever. It was supposed to be Pokemon Legends Celebi, but Pokemon ZA is a plenty great name. I do believe that game will be targeted towards like teenagers and older, maybe
Right.
like Gen Z to millennials type of thing.
So it's not
Um,
an expansion, right? Like a DLC. It's a brand new game.
no, it's a brand new game. I wish there were a DLC for Arceus, but I think Arceus was just an experiment, and they're done with it because there haven't been updates. Nothing's been going on with Arceus. There haven't been
Yeah.
events in Arceus.
I
I
wish
mean,
they
the
would
game
have.
isn't fully finished.
Like something I really liked about Arceus was the Lost and Found. I thought that was so cool because
Oh
you get
yeah,
to interact with other players. Like in Paldea, you can battle with other people, you can trade with other people, but you're not like actively going out and like looking for their shit, you know?
yeah.
I
I
feel
mean,
like
that's
it
a
was a
fun
new
little
way to
element,
connect. Yeah. It was really cool.
and you can see a lot of like overlap in the game's ideas, like throwing a Pokeball at a Pokemon kind of thing.
Yeah.
But I think these games were like co-developed, like not in the same development team, but developed at the same time. So they might have borrowed some ideas from each other. But Arceus was finished first, and Scarlet Violet was like in the in the later production stages, so they couldn't make changes based on what was successful.
Right.
So they can learn a lot of lessons from Arceus and potentially ZA for whatever's after Scarlet and Violet, which should be about what, a year and a half now, that they should announce something. So
So is there going to be like a new trading card? What's it called? Gen?
right,
So how we went from Sword and Shield.
just because Sun and Moon was before Sword and Shield. That was a
Mhm.
3 year period. Sword and Shield, 3 years. Scarlet and Violet will also be 3 years. That's kind of the pattern. The Pokemon Company doesn't have to do it this way, but to keep up with the competitive rotations, that's likely what they'll do. I don't have any like definitive reason to believe that other than the history. That's what has been demonstrated by the Pokemon Company. If you
Mhm.
consider we're in the ninth generation and Pokemon's been around for 27 years, so 27 divided by 9, that puts
Oh,
us at 3 exactly. So
so the games were before the TCG, right? Or the TCG was before the
um
games.
no, the game came before the TCG. The TCG kind of super like sort of followed up on the game. I think they were developed at around the same time. I don't have again, I'm not sure about that. I can get that confirmed in the show notes.
Right.
But so with the beginning of Pokemon in 27 years ago, they started with the base set, and they've been rotating every 3 years since. So, for 9 rotations. So there's no reason to believe that,
They're
the
going to
30th
stop or
anniversary
change
won't.
it.
Yeah, I mean, I think the 30th anniversary will be like a really big deal for them. I mean, they're going to find anything to be a big deal.
Yeah, like look at the
Uh
25th anniversary, the celebrations. That was
right.
huge. We bought
Right. That was an amazing amazing collection.
I think it was a premium collection for like $400. It was so
Yeah, it was selling
expensive.
that. Yeah,
So
I
nice
have one of
though.
those. that I'm not opening. I opened one. I'm keeping another one, but the price has gone down since. The fever or fervor around celebrations has
Celebrations.
died down a bit. So
Okay.
there's one last bit I want to say.
Okay.
In business, there's this concept of good enough. Like if you've ever gone to any business like Walmart or Target or any type of like
It's
volume
good
based
enough.
business, you know, they could go the extra mile and like give you someone in every aisle to help you, and they can, polish everything and make everything so pretty. But is that going to really affect their bottom line?
No.
Right? Like, so in the concept of good enough isn't always applicable. Like, for Chanel, for instance, they can't go with the concept of good enough. But in video games, in gaming, in things that are high volume, they're in super
It's like
meticulous
fast
things.
fashion. Like
Right.
people want something new constantly. So like, yeah, you're going to push something out with bugs and like some glitchy errors like the spinny thing like you said, but they'll complain about it, you'll push out a fix and then it's over.
Right. Right. And that's exactly the consideration you want to make. So, with all that said, right? Different target market than we think. It's good enough, and it's bringing in a new audience, which is what they're going for the future.
Okay, you changed my mind.
That's it.
Yeah, you changed
But
my
I mean,
mind because I
okay. I
hadn't thought
mean,
about it
easy
like
enough.
that. Yeah. However, I think they still should try and focus on their existing customer base because we're the ones that are going to be giving them money at least until those 10-year-olds get a job, you know? So,
Sure.
like, yeah, their parents are going to buy them their Pokemon products and the Pokemon games, but they're not going to be investing heavily like millennials and Gen Z are currently. Like, I can probably go out and buy like 10 booster boxes right now, like willy nilly, like totally fine, but Jimmy the 10-year-old's dad isn't going to go and buy him 10 booster boxes. So like if they want a strong influx continuously, like they should be trying to focus on all of their target groups. So you and I, Jimmy the 10-year-old and his friends.
That makes sense. So I'm gonna ask you a question. Like, do you think by focusing on younger audiences that Pokemon could potentially lose people like us?
I don't think they could lose people like us, but with the day and age that we're currently in, as far as graphics go for video games, it's not a good idea to not give us something that's like visually appealing, you know? Because as much as I love Pokemon, I'm not going to play a Pokemon game that looks bad because I'm not about to spend $60 on something where, you know, like I don't get outfit choices and I don't get like all of this lifestyle, all of these lifestyle choices that I did get with Legends of Arceus, for example. Like I could change my kimono and I could change my outfit and my hairstyle and all of this good stuff. But with Scarlet and Violet, for example, you didn't really get that. With Sword and Shield, you did get that. Like that was amazing. Like you could change everything about your outfit, everything about your hairstyle. Like those are the things I pay attention to more than, you know, like the battles. Because that's just the type of gamer that I am. But
right, you're a cozy gamer.
I'm a cozy gamer. And I think aspects of the Pokemon games are cozy games. Like they do have some cozy aspects.
Agreed.
And like kids aren't going to look at that much. You know, like there aren't, I feel like there aren't that many cozy gamer kids. Like they just play because they want to play. I also don't have kids and I don't know jack all about kids, but these are just my assumptions.
No, I get that. Yeah. And I track with that, which is a valid point. I mean, you know, if you want us to engage, help us. Like, okay, maybe they're targeting younger audiences, but at least finish your game. But I mean, I think like other than Baldur's Gate 3 and Elden Ring, I can't remember a game that's been finished. And that's so frustrating for me as a gamer, right? Because I don't trust games at launch anymore. Like I don't want to buy games. Like the last game I bought at launch was Fallout 76. And I kid you not, like I pre-ordered it. I was the most excited about Fallout 76 I could ever be about any game.
Is that the multiplayer one?
Yeah, the online one. It is.
Still haven't finished it.
Probably my biggest heartbreak ever. And so that my mind thinks a lot about that. And I haven't bought games until they've been like finished. Like I still haven't bought Cyberpunk 2077 because I don't trust that it's been done yet.
I bought that game.
You know what?
And it's not been done.
Did you?
Yeah.
I almost did.
They've rolled out some updates, which is nice, but it's still not.
I heard there was a DLC.
Yeah, it's not where they promised it would be.
So with all that, you know, it's hard to expect Pokemon to be any different than all these other games. They probably have crunch. They probably have overworked staff.
Yeah.
Which is awful. This is an industry problem, I think, more than it is a Pokemon problem. We can criticize Pokemon, but you know, if we want games that compete with like Zelda, well, Zelda was pretty finished, right? But like Nintendo is notorious for finished games, so I'm kind of contradicting myself a little bit. Point I'm trying to get at is I think a lot of what the Pokemon company is suffering with today is an industry problem rather than a Pokemon problem.
Yeah.
And you know, it doesn't mean your points aren't valid and real and important to consider. But I think.
But to fix those problems, we got to fix the industry.
Well, that's a much bigger battle. We need
fair pay.
I don't even know. I mean, well, of course, and that's always a thing, right? Like unionization, but like Larian Studios, I think they're based in the UK, have really great working conditions from what I understand. Don't quote me on that because I don't want to die on that hill. But you know, if they can put out a game like Baldur's Gate 3, like let's see more. But I think they took forever on Baldur's Gate 3 because that's how long it takes to build a finished game. So yeah, I don't know. Industry problems, maybe focusing too much on a younger demographic. Those are all valid and I can agree. But I think I'm worried to say I'm excited about Pokemon ZA because I've never been not disappointed in the last, I don't know,
10 years.
Maybe since Fallout 4 was the last time. No, anytime, but it was before Fallout 4 was the last time I wasn't disappointed, maybe, with a brand new game. I mean, it's just like, you know, all the sports games now are absolutely the worst, which is another genre I'm really into. So, yeah, industry problems. Pokemon may be focusing on the wrong demographic too much. Obviously, you have to focus on the kids. But are you like, you know, leaving your core demographic right now in the dust? I don't know. Maybe not in the dust, but leaving your core demographic behind.
Yeah, like kind of on the back burner.
Are we going to move on to a different IP? Where would Pokemon people go? Which IP would Pokemon people go to if not Pokemon? Let's say Pokemon becomes boring, dull, and we're done with it. Where would people go if they're interested in Pokemon? Not Palworld, surely.
Not Palworld. Maybe like MetaZoo? I don't know.
MetaZoo died. No, MetaZoo literally died.
It died?
Yeah, like they're out of business. And I had an opportunity to meet with the owner of MetaZoo.
Really?
Back in October or September. Maybe even a little bit before that. A good friend of mine lives in New York City and she's friends with him. And I told her about Pixel and Panic. And she said, oh, come meet him. He's super open to meeting you. Just have a drink, whatever. And I was like, oh, let me wait until Pixel Panic is better. I didn't understand too much about MetaZoo. That's another reason. I was like, if I'm going to meet the owner, I got to know something about MetaZoo. But, you know, I was planning on meeting him eventually. But, you know, MetaZoo is now in the past. So that's something we can definitely discuss on the next podcast. But, you know, the only thing I can think of that would compete with Pokemon in terms of IP in a like, it's a video game, it's a trading card game, it's a plushie collection, it's a Funko collection.
Disney Lorcana.
Disney's the only thing. Disney's the only thing that competes with
Pokemon.
And you know, Disney. If you want to talk about a company that I feel like is losing track of its core audience,
Disney.
But I think Disney's suffering from industry problems too. So we can go on this tangent forever. We will call it there with a lot more to discuss. Any closing thoughts on your end there, Pixel?
No, I think you posed a lot of really good points that I hadn't thought of. And it definitely sparked some additional questions that I'm going to have to research further and possibly get back to you with our next episode. But
I love that.
Yeah, for everyone that's listening, let us know what you think in the comments. Do you think Pokemon is focusing too much on Jimmy when they should be focusing on people our age? Or do you think they're doing the right move and building up their new customer base for the next 10 to 15 years, like Panic said? But yeah, we are super interested to hear what you have to say. And we will be back next week with a brand new episode. So be sure to hit subscribe, hit on the little bell icon to be notified when we post any new videos. Be on the lookout for upcoming weekly videos by Panic.
That's true. That is in the works. And so with that, I will say, if you did like this show, a like is how you can tell us that. You can technically type it in the comments too, but
I like this show.
both is good. Both is good. For Kano Lostos. Thank you everyone for your time, and we're hoping to see you on the next podcast.
Yeah. Goodbye.